Hey, what's going on, everybody? Good to be back here out at practice. The Hurricanes were back at practice after 2 days off with recovery. Also, first day of classes were on Monday. Again, today out here in Shells. I want to get into some observations I had. Also, talk about the scrimmage a little bit, some things that stood out to me with the second scrimmage that they had on Saturday, and also kind of with where this team is in terms of their practice schedule with the season starting just around the corner. So I want to talk a little bit about some interviews after practice. Unfortunately, we're not able to get any assistant coaches or head coach Mario Cristobal after practice. It's always great getting perspective from the coaches, but it is what it is. 4 players did talk to the media, 3 defensive backs, Al Blades Jr., James Williams, Avante Williams, and also tight end Elijah Arroyo. You know, something to note that Elijah said after practice, and I did watch him a little bit more in today's practice, going through drills, certainly going to be a big part of this offense in his second year. But he was asked if his weight has changed anything from a year ago, and he said it's about the same. However, his body fat percent is down between 7 or 8, somewhere in that range, which is obviously a great number for a tight end. I just think Elijah just seems more confident, more poised. I definitely think he's going to have one of these good, productive years in whatever role he's in. Certainly tight end is expected to be a big part of the offense this year, you know, with Will Mallory there, but I think Elijah's right there. And he did say, you know, Jalil's coming along. You know, they're really doing their best to really teach him everything that goes into that tight end position. He really likes his speed. He noted that. And just a guy that they're continuing to work with the upperclassmen, with one of these, or, you know, just Elijah's not an upperclassman, but he's been here a year. But he's just trying to help Jalil along with Will, you know, just helping Jalil come along. So that's good to hear. Jalil's certainly going to be a part as well, you know, as he slots into that third slot, it looks like. Okay, so let's go back to the second scrimmage with some of the things that Coach Cristobal had to say that stood out to me. Again, it was a closed scrimmage. We weren't able to be out there and ask questions afterwards, but again, he provided some remarks on his thoughts, what stood out to me, and I'm sure you guys have seen it. If you haven't yet, check out the video and see what he had to say for yourself. But again, he talked about the drops. He feels like they are doing some positive things. However, there were some big drops in the scrimmage, and he wanted to make sure that he pointed that out. He didn't want to overlook it because it is a thing. It is something that this team is going to have to work through. We've talked about the wide receivers quite a bit. There's a lot of spotlight on them to improve, to really solidify themselves. Al Blades Jr. actually did note that with the wide receivers, Xavier Restrepo is really trying to solidify himself as the leader of that group. So I just thought that was interesting that Al noticed that in terms of with what's going on with the team from a receiver position. And we have seen drops become an issue at times during the drills, so to hear Coach Cristobal talk about it isn't a surprise. However, you'd like to be sharpening things up as you get closer to the game. I actually am pretty confident in the receiver group in general, although it's not looked good at times. I do think this group is going to come together. I do like the guys that they have on the roster. I think they're going to be a solid group. I think guys are going to perform just well once the season comes. However, it's given some people some hesitation. I understand that. I think in particular, I think Frank Latson is going to come around. I think he's going to have a good year. Certainly you'd like to see it and hear more about it at practice at times. Keyshawn Smith is a guy I think that often gets overlooked. I think he's going to be better than he was a year ago. And then I think Xavier Restrepo is going to be better than he was a year ago as well. And I think guys are going to come along, you know, and kind of jump into that 4, 5, and 6 role. But again, they've got to start showing it, and certainly they've got to prove themselves. And I think what's becoming hard for the coaches is they don't know exactly who all those guys are going to be, but I think it's going to shake out. I think it's going to happen early on in the year with those first couple games, and then that will be a true test to determine who will actually deserve the playing time or earn the playing time for that third week that we always talk about with Texas A&M. There's a lot riding on that game. Texas A&M coming out, preseason top 10 team in the country. Obviously will be a huge test for this Miami team. So let's go back a little bit to my observations today. I bounced around. I started watching the defensive backs a little bit. They go through their typical drills, you know, working on their back pedal. And then also they're doing a lot of breakdowns in terms of the corners at one side, working there. And then the safeties are working on some stuff there. A lot of positional stuff in terms of where they need to be in terms of the defense. And then that was something that the defensive backs said after practice. You know, Avante Williams said it. He feels like he has a better understanding this year of the defense. Really feels good in terms of knowing what he's supposed to do. Obviously, it's a new defense for everybody, but he just feels like he understands the game. Was his words. He understands it better. And I think that's only going to help him because you combine that with his athletic abilities. I think he's in store for a breakout season. I definitely think he could have a really big year for Miami. He's going to be finally, essentially, kind of have that large role as he's been working towards that. And James Williams talked about certainly he enjoys playing next to Avonte, feels like he's a guy that really loves ball like James and just wants to be great. And I think you're seeing that on the practice field, watching Avonte go through the back pedal drills. And again, I've talked about, when we're able to see a little bit of contact, he does a good job there too. So I think the fact that Avonte said after practice that he's really feeling comfortable with the defense and really understands it, I think that's only going to help him. I think that aids to my belief in the fact that I do believe he's going to have a breakout year. And speaking with the defense and just kind of positionally or how it's working out, Al Blades Jr. talked about safety. I have an article on the website about his complete breakdown of playing safety. I was able to ask him a couple questions as well in the interview session. One of the things I asked him was, just how he's enjoying it. He said he liked it, but I also asked him about how his cornerback experience helps him playing safety, because not all safeties get a chance to play corner in their careers, and Al has done that quite a bit over his UM career. And one of the things he said that stood out to me was he's able to really help the cornerbacks either understanding where things might go in terms of routes or just the way an offense might try to attack, but he's able to feel like he's able to communicate well with the corners and understand what's going on from their point of view because he has played that position. So, and really, as far as enjoying the position, he said it again. He said this throughout media days. He kind of always says this. It's football. He loves being out here. He'll play wherever he needs to play. So certainly he's able to carve out a role in that safety spot, and he is working a lot at safety. And he said he'll play wherever. He can certainly play corner if they need him, but he's spending most of his time at safety, and we are seeing that during the drills that he is doing that. And one of the reasons is he's just trying to get up to speed at that position. So if Al Blades is kind of slotting in there, at that safety spot, if he's right now, you kind of project him as that second team safety, that's certainly a good spot for him. And then they're going to, with those other guys with the experience at safety, with Cam Kitchens, James Williams, Avonte Williams have experience there as well. But Al certainly, whatever role he's going to be in, he's going to be trying to get an elevated role. So I just think Al's going to be great for this team being back, and obviously all the expertise he can provide the younger guys or any of the guys that have questions because of all the experience he has. And he just has a great demeanor, great leadership quality to him that I think is only going to help the defense, a defense that needs guys like Al on the field and really helping out as much as possible, leading the way vocally and also with his play. So saw a lot of guys at practice, which is good to see. Again, watching different positions, watching the defensive line go through their moves. I watched some rush-in stuff, saw Thomas Davis working in that group with Cyrus Moss, Nigel Lee Kelly, Mitchell Agude is in there, as well as Jafari Harvey. And I think, watching Agude go through the defensive line drills against the offensive line is always fun to see. He showed some good quickness and, kind of got the way it was positioned, kind of double teamed a little bit on a drill and kind of shoved him off the play. But again, you can see his ability. I think he's in store for a big year for Miami as well as some of the other guys I've mentioned in the past. So saw a lot of guys, however, did not see Jalen Knighton out here. Heard he was dealing with something, injury precaution, and something that happened last week. So that's just something to monitor. However, I will say I did see him walking after practice, with the rest of the team. So that's a good sign. Saw Trevante Citizen as well, heavy knee brace on his right leg. So that's something to note, and I saw Don Chaney walk in afterwards very gingerly, certainly with everything that he's gone through recently. So it's tough seeing these guys, but hopefully it's not necessarily going to be a bad thing moving forward for some of the guys. Good seeing some receivers out here. Isaiah Horton was the guy that we've been talking about being back out here soon, so that was good that he was out here. And also Zion Nelson. I want to keep mentioning him, and something I'm noticing with him that he is out here. And it's kind of maybe hard to notice, but he's in his shoes, he's in his trainers, he's not in the cleats. So it's good seeing him out here, walking with the team and doing that. But certainly, as we mentioned, I don't think it's anything to worry about necessarily long term. I think precautionary. I think he could be held out as long as they need him to, because of the way the schedule shakes out, so they don't have to rush him back, which is great for a guy like that. And it's really going to give these guys a big emphasis that can help them, in terms of the other offensive linemen, really place an emphasis on these guys getting ready, because Miami's going to need depth at the offensive line, regardless of how the start of the season goes, because the way that the year goes typically, and now we saw it last year, guys typically at that position can kind of go through some things. So I think it's only going to help gain some guys some confidence and experience, and they can kind of understand what they have at these other spots. Something that stood out to me before I wrap this up, kind of going back to what Elijah Arroyo talked about after practice, it really stood out to me. And somebody asked him about the offense and what he likes about it, and he said, I thought this was good. He said he feels like they can run 10 plays out of every set. So basically, if they're showing certain things, it's going to be hard to read in an ideal situation where they can do different plays off of a certain set, which is good because so you don't want to be always showing the same set, running the same plays. It's easy for defenses to pick up on, especially as the year goes on, when you show things on tape in game situations where you're running the same plays. And teams can certainly pick up on that. Defensive coordinators are very smart on noticing things like that. So that's good, and hopefully that continues. And the key for Miami is to be successful out of those 10 plays of what Elijah was talking about. You want to be able to show a different set and be able to do whatever you want to do out of it and be successful, because it's one thing to show it and run a play, but you got to find success in it for it to really be successful and to really keep defenses off balance. So that's going to wrap things up. Again, shells today, full pads tomorrow. Still in fall camp. Coach Cristobal made sure to mention that they're still working on themselves. They're not focusing on that first game opponent. Still just kind of going through camp, determine a bunch of different things. They'll get into some situational things this week, really show some things, also some things that they're going to see later in the year. Coach called it some exotic things in terms of plays and what they'll look like. So they'll kind of touch on that now so they can revisit it later on in the year, kind of bring that back so it's not completely new when you face a team heading into the week. They can kind of revert back to this time and remember how they attack certain things there. So again, they're gonna have a short day, shorter, lighter practice kind of towards the end of the week, and then they'll kind of get into some Bethune stuff. But it's right around the corner, about over the halfway point, so we're right there. But anyways, want to wrap this up. Thank everybody for watching. Take care. Hopefully you have a good rest of the day. Thanks again for watching.